Okay, so here we are. We're hanging out in the garage. Actually, I'm recording this little voiceover in my basement, but today we're going to be doing an oil change on the BMW R1100S, 1999 model, actually. And here I am crawling down, and I'm going to go check out, just see what's going on underneath this bike. Hello, 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 waving at the camera. And so that was my my little oil pan there that's going to get all filled up with oil. So I got this rag that I'm using to clean up underneath the bike. There's always a little bit of road grime under there. And so just making it nice and clean so I can get a socket on my oil filter. And there's a little hex, a little Allen key, Allen wrench, hex, bolt, whatever you want to call it, for a drain plug to drain out the oil. And so here we go. I got my my little 8mm hex, and I got that in the oil drain plug, and I just cracked it, and it's gonna be easy to come out now. Got that on a little ratchet. I mean, you could use a regular Allen wrench on that, but I got a ratchet set I bought on sale, so might as well put it to good use. And so it's always kind of tricky reaching underneath your bike. If you're, sometimes it might be easier for you to do it left-handed, might be easier to do it right-handed. Some people can't do it left-handed if they're right-handed, so you just do the best you can. And you can see I don't have a center stand on this motorcycle, so you can see my fancy bricks and my little wood wedges there. And there's actually where the center stand could be on the bike. I'd like to get one day if I could get a good used one or something. Makes working on your bike a lot easier if you have a center stand. But so I got a chunk of rebar, wrapped it up in duct tape, and I stuck it through these two holes where the center stand should be. The reason I wrapped it in duct tape is because it's the frame is aluminum, which is softer than the rebar, so you could scratch up the they're kind of a precision machined holes in there, so you wouldn't want to scratch them up just in case you have to put a bearing in there one day. And what am I doing here? Oh, okay, I'm going to show you. This is the drain plug, and there's a little crush washer on there. Little tiny aluminum washer. Sometimes those will get stuck to your bike, so you'll take out the drain plug and, hey, where's that washer? It could get stuck on your bike, so make sure you could just use like a little flathead screwdriver to pop it off if it's stuck on there a little bit. So here I went away and I got a new, they always say you should replace these crush washers. I mean, I think you could probably reuse them once, but because the washers are made out of aluminum, they're supposed to squish. Oh, I guess I can kind of see the oil's still slowly leaking out of the drain plug, or out of the drain hole. And so now I'm going to take off the oil filter. Now, the funny thing about BMW bikes is that they always like to. BMW engineers are fantastic, and they're also fantastic at making things and special tools that you need, so you have to give them more money. But I have it's a K&N, I think it's a K&N oil filter on this, and I like the K&N oil filter because it's got a I guess a raised up little hex on there, so you can just put like a regular socket on it. If you buy the oil filter from BMW, you have to have the special oil filter removal tool, and the stuff that you buy at Crappy Tire, at your whatever you buy at your automotive store, it won't fit because it's a very super special thin tool. The first oil change I did on this, I bought some sort of tool from the automotive store. It didn't really fit, so I ended up getting a screwdriver and just mangling the whole thing. And I'm lucky I didn't damage, lucky I didn't damage anything to get the original oil filter off. It was a BMW oil filter, and just a mess. After that, I got the K&N and torqued it up so it's not too tight. So it comes off really nicely with the socket, and so that's why I'm a big fan of that. And they make good filters, anyways. I also have a K&N air filter on the bike too. So it's not a paper one that you're supposed to replace every whatever amounts. Oh, there we go. I just dropped the oil filter into the bucket of oil, into the oil drain pan. So yeah, it's and you can see I'm using my little rag there a lot, because you just no matter how neat you want to be doing an oil change, you get it all over the place. And you can see I got it on I've learned my lesson over the years, and I always put this on a nice big chunk of cardboard, and you can see the old cardboard. I always keep a bunch of cardboard lying around in the garage, just so. This one here, we used it to spray paint something outside, so we didn't get paint on our picnic table. And yeah, it's good to have these little chunks of cardboard. I'm laying on a chunk of cardboard there too, and being all nice and neat, because us mechanics are such neat people. But yeah, you can always use. What am I doing here? Oh, okay, yeah. So there's a little cavity up in there where you get the oil filter from. And you got to make sure everything's nice and clean here. You don't want any road grime or little bits of dirt, little mini chunks of gravel getting into your oil, because like that's it's not too cool, man. So what else am I doing here? Yeah, there's my oily filter. Oh, I'm also checking on the filter. I've had it happen before where there's like a rubber gasket on the top of it, and sometimes that'll get stuck up underneath the motor, so the filter will come out and the rubber gasket will be stuck where you can't see it. So I was feeling around there, and I have had it where I put that on again, and I thought I had it off, and then it started leaking oil when I started up the bike, and I had to take it off again. It was a huge mess. I'm like, why is that leaking? Oh, yeah, I forgot there's a gasket on there. So anytime you have, anytime you're doing an oil change on a bike, make sure all your gaskets are accounted for and there's none stuck on the bike. Just like when I was talking about that crush washer, make sure you got all your parts you're supposed to have. And yeah, so what else can I tell you here about the bike? It's I went out and got a new filter. Oh, yeah. And then so I actually made a mistake here. You can see I'm putting a little bit of old oil around the edge of the new filter. And then I'm just going to screw that back on and torque it on properly. But I forgot here. I usually get some clean motor oil. And you can see it looks like a little cup. So I would kind of fill it up with oil first before putting it on the bike. And so I actually, so here I didn't do that, and I never actually researched it before, but depending on who you talk to, if you have an oil filter like that, most people recommend that you pre-fill it before putting it on your car or motorcycle. If it's a great big truck with a huge capacity, you definitely want to do it, but I've heard, or I've read from this forum and this website that like it really doesn't matter too much on modern engines. They say, it doesn't hurt to put that oil in there, and definitely get the oil around that rubber gasket so it doesn't stick when you take it off again. Okay, so it looks like here I'm torquing it up. The manual calls for 11 Newton meters worth of torque. That's a torque wrench I'm using. And I go nice and slow here. I'm just waiting for it to kind of break. It'll kick out. Maybe it happens a little bit later. And here we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you just go. I usually give it one extra chance. You don't reef on it. It's like once it does that little click, the more expensive torque wrenches. The more expensive ones will just kind of ratchet out. It'll be kind of a clicking noise. Now this one kind of breaks a bit. You'll see it breaks out on you. And so this torque wrench I have, it goes from 11 Newton meters to 30 Newton meters. This one, it was set at 11, and then I'll have to tighten it up to 32. But, according to the book calls for, on the drain plug, it calls for 32 Newton meters, but my torque wrench only goes to 30 Newton meters. But I figure, what's a couple Newton meters between friends? Will it make that much difference? And with all things lubricated, if it just starts leaking, just tighten it up a bit more. So yeah, I put the new washer on that drain plug, and I'm screwing it in there. And you really don't want to over torque anything on this particular motorcycle engine, because the crankcase on it, like the block and everything on it, it's all aluminum. There's nothing steel about it other than the pistons and the crankshaft. But yeah, you don't want to be over torquing it. And like once you strip, if it's an aluminum head, aluminum block, anything aluminum, once you strip it, it's like, oh no, it gets to be a big trouble. And I've never actually done that on any motorcycle I've had. But when I was a machinist, the odd time something would goof up, you'd mess up a chunk of aluminum, and then you're doing all kinds of crazy helicoil fixes, and it's a mess. So don't over torque it. If it leaks a little bit, just give it another eighth of a turn, or just a little love tap, and tap, just tighten that up a little bit more. So here we go. Yeah, so here I am trying to tighten with my greasy hands the the torque wrench, and I'm like, oh man, this just ain't working. Am I getting old? Am I getting the arthritis in my hands? Oh boy. So what you do, the old mechanic trick is, if you're all greasy and you can't do it with your hands, well, you get a rag. And then if the rag doesn't work, you whip out the big guns and you go for the gloves. So that's what I had to do. And I got some old work gloves lying around. I'll put on the work gloves, something about wearing the gloves, if you're tightening up any nut or bolts or anything like that, you're just wearing some gloves, you can just get that much more grip and leverage on it. So that's the other little trick. If everything's too slippery, you get your nice garden gloves with lots of dirt on them, and there you go. So now I can, there's like a little spring in there, and it's a little bit, as you tighten it up for more torque, the harder it is to turn the thing around. Well, you get yourself a torque wrench, and you'll figure it out on your own. Of course, I could just like go till it's finger tight and give it a quarter turn and go from there too. But I don't know. Hey, you got a BMW. You must be a good engineer if you are riding a BMW. There is no other way. Okay, so here we go. We got the 8mm hex, and we're torquing in that puppy, and we're waiting for it to break out, or whatever you call that, ratchet out, break out. And once it's a certain torque, it'll kind of pop. Oh, there we go, pop, and yeah, there we go. That's all good. Everything's tightened up, torqued up. So there's still no oil in the engine, so don't you go starting it. The next thing to do would be put some more oil in the engine, and I can take away the oil drain pan too. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, and now here we are back to take off our what would that be? A oil filler cap, I guess, and cleaning that all up so we can put some oil into the bike. You can see there's a little window. Well, you'll see later when there's that little plastic window that I'll be shining a little flashlight at later, and that'll tell you the the level of the oil in your bike. So I'm making sure everything's nice and clean. You don't want any bugs flying in there, or you don't want any dirt falling into it. So everything's pretty clean around the oil. Yeah, so I'm going to be putting in 10W40 oil. That is what was required by the manufacturer to put in there. There's always this thing about, should I run synthetic or should I not run synthetic? So you can do a whole lot of research on oil, and after years and years of this car and that car and this motorcycle and that motorcycle, I really don't notice a whole lot of difference for any additives or any synthetic this or that. It's just like whatever the manufacturer recommends, I just do that now. And it's kind of hard to find 10W40 oil now these days. Okay, here we go. I'm shining, kind of cross-arming it over here, shining this just so I can see the level of the oil in that little window. And you can actually see it in the video pretty well, but it was a little darker where I was looking in the garage. So I usually have a little flashlight around in the garage. You can always use that if you drop a bolt or a nut and it goes underneath a bench, and it's like and you need your little flashlight. And then so I'm just kind of slowly adding the oil in here. You don't want to put too much oil in there. You want to make sure you have enough, and you definitely don't want to starve your engine of oil. But the first bike I ever got, I put way too much oil into it once because I didn't even know how to check the level. Back then, you could just do a little written test and go buy a motorcycle and start riding around. I mean, you couldn't have passengers and you couldn't ride at night, but it's like, hey, I answered my 20 multiple choice test questions. So yeah, I'm good to ride a motorcycle. You got to learn how to ride it somehow, right? And then, so I bought it off of this place in town, Power Cycle, still in business. And Iggy is the guy that owns that. And so Iggy sold me this bike, and he was actually very good about it because he dropped it off at work when I was at work. And so they stuck it in the back of a pickup truck and actually dropped it off for me. So I didn't even have to go down to the motorcycle shop. And then, so I had troubles starting it because I didn't know you had to pull the clutch to start it. There was like a little safety there, right? And then what else? I was checking for the oil, and I just looked in the crankcase. It was a little different design than this BMW. Here, if we put the oil, it kind of the oil goes over all the lifters and stuff like that in the head. But the other bike I had, it just went right into the crankcase, and I didn't know there was that little window to take a look at the oil level. So just to be extra safe, I'll just throw another liter of oil in there. Okay, great. And then I still don't know how much oil I have. Well, just to be safe, I'll put some more in. So I had way too much oil in my first motorcycle, and it started blowing blue smoke out the pipes. And I thought, oh, that's bad rings. That's no good. It's burning oil. Well, yeah, it's going to burn oil if you put in like twice as much oil as you're supposed to have in the darn thing. So, yeah, I fouled up the spark plugs. It wouldn't start and then at work. And then, oh, yeah, you can see there I'm clicking, putting it into neutral. I'm going to start the bike here and give it a little run, see if anything leaks out the bottom. There you go. Shaking back and forth, just like those BMWs do. And then, so back to my other story there where I put way too much oil in there. And I didn't check it with a flashlight. And, so I fouled the plugs. I called up. I was all pissed off at Iggy, and I called up and I said, oh, you yeah, the bike you sold me, it's not running. And then he said, okay, well, we'll come pick it up from work and we'll take a look at it. So they drove down, put it in the back of the pickup truck, took it back to their shop, and then they realized that this brand new motorcycle guy has no idea how to check the oil and put way too much oil in it and fouled the plugs. And he said, you had too much oil in it. This is how you check it here. And he showed me the little window, and it's like, yeah, I'm a moron. Yeah, I ride a motorcycle. But, Iggy was really good about that and never charged me anything. I guess your first moronic mistake is free, something like that. And, yeah, he's still in business there. And I got my tires off of him, actually, a couple of years ago. So it looked like I needed to put a little bit more oil into the bike. And you can see my fancy center stand there still with the rebar on top of the two little wedges of wood and some bricks, nice and solid. So that's on both sides. That's so you can keep the motorcycle up straight, nice and straight. I mean, theoretically, you could do an oil change with the side stand down. You can see I have the side stand down on it right now. That's just a little safety thing. If it falls over, my way, where I'm sitting on my little milk crate next to the bucket that has the camera on it, then yeah, it'll land on the slide stand. The others, if it goes over the other way, then I'm scratching the paint on my car, I think. Well, no, I think I moved the car far enough away that if it fell, it wouldn't hit it. But I try to put the car a little bit further away if I'm working on my bike. Luckily, I have a garage. I have enough room for that. So, still filling up the oil here, and we're getting near the end. There we go. Put the cap on, and then I'm using my fancy little flashlight all the time to check the level. And isn't that nice? Oh yeah, keep that bike looking clean. You gotta have a nice clean bike. And actually, I was thinking I got a bunch of brake dust on my. You might not be able to see it in the video, but hey, thumbs up! We are all done there. Isn't that great? And then we'll have to put some tools away and do this and that. Yeah, so I got some brake dust on the wheels. I should be cleaning that up, but that's one of these days I'll do that. Okay, let's try starting up the bike one more time. And shaky, that's what it does. And yeah, so usually I fill it up. There is an official line on the window. Maybe you can't really see it there, but no matter what, you do want to see a little bubble of air on top of your window. Like you never want to see all oil in that little plastic window, because if you do that, you have no idea how much you actually have in your engine. So you could have an extra liter in there, or a quart if you're American. And yeah, so I think I had that running. Then I turned it off, and I think you can just make out that all the oil's starting to drip back down into the oil pan, and you can see it's slowly coming up. And we're going to have a good, nice, safe level of oil on the motorcycle. Ooh, exciting, I tell you. And then, yeah, so good for another year. I hardly, I'm a real fair weather rider, so I just, I don't put a whole lot of miles on the bike, but I just think it's a good idea to change your oil every year, whether it needs it or not. And that way, there's different detergent, what do you call it? There's like acids and stuff that can build up in the oil and can corrode things, so just kind of keep it good. And what else do we got here? Cleaning up my tools. Look at that. You're not done until the job's all done. And then I'll show you just a little. Yep, looking good. And at the end here, my camera totally ran out of battery. Yes, we are good. And I'll show you how I take apart my little wedges. And yeah, this is about the end, and the camera kind of stops running. But yeah, I put those on there. They work great. And there we go. And that's where my camera ran out of battery. So anyways, there's how you change the oil on a BMW R1100S. And yeah, there's other videos out there that show you how to do it, but they don't have the colorful commentary that's provided by the Superpilotish channel. Check it out Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. And thank you for watching. Bye.